My guest today is Emma Dowd. Emma is a serial entrepreneur who's built many successful companies. She is a visionary who thrives in helping others succeed with their goals. In today's episode, Emma discusses one of her business's products, anti-identity theft. She'll give you some tools and tips to help you avoid having your identity stolen. Welcome to LiFEOLOgy.
Hey, how are you?
It is good to see you. You've been on my show several times. In fact, I was thinking about this. I've known you since 2017. So we were so young back then, but it's always good to have you back on the show again.
Yes, I love being here.
Good. Now, for those of you who may not know, you, like I said, you've been on my show several times, but you are also the owner of AM/FM 247. That is the broadcasting network that I am on. And so your company has really helped me expand my audience. So I want to just really thank you for that. But those of you who are podcasters who would like to transition to old school terrestrial radio, visit amfm247.com and tell them that I sent you, and Emma will hook you up and get you on her networks as well. So all that aside, Emma, so you had, like I said, you're a serial entrepreneur. Every time I talk to you, you're like, I have a new company, which is fantastic. First off, how do you find the time to do all that?
I don't sleep.
I understand that. That's funny. So now we're transitioning into the insurance company, though. Tell me more about that. What caused you to transition into that? I know you have some personal experiences with that, but what was the reason behind that?
Well, I kind of wanted a couple of different things. I wanted to try something else new that I've never done before, but also I kind of wanted to follow some of my family's footsteps. I've never done that before. And my dad used to sell insurance, annuities, all kinds of stuff when I was growing up. So I kind of had it in my blood. But it really kind of came down to COVID. Around the last 5 years or so, I saw so many people die and they had no life insurance. Yeah. And a lot of these were friends of mine. And I know the financial struggle that put them through. And I mean, they're in their 30s and 40s. I mean, you don't expect to die that early. Yeah. So it's like they didn't have the insurance. They didn't think that they needed it. And then at the same time, throughout this time since COVID, I know that health and stuff has been a lot worse for people. Yeah. And then shortly into 2022, 23, and 24, my family, along with a bunch of other people, got very sick. And a lot of them, luckily it was a severe chronic illness, but it didn't kill them. But what it did do was it disabled them. And so they were never able to physically go ahead and live the way that they needed to anymore. Their money was depleted. I mean, financial destruction was just ridiculous. Yeah. And I realized that would have only been changed maybe a little bit, even for the better, a little bit, if they had just had some insurance. So when I started to look for something else, I wanted to do something that I could make a difference with people. That's something I've always talked about on this show too, is making lives better. And so I wanted to be able to sell something that I could do from here, run the station, but also it's not something that it's not like selling a vacuum cleaner. It's like $3,000. It's something that we all need, even if we don't understand why, as opposed to something that we just want.
Yes, that's a good point. Yes, needs versus wants. That's important. It's not often we put our wants before our needs, and in that's where we can find a lot of financial ruin or financial struggles, or just struggles in general. Transitioning to the different products that you as an insurance broker, what are some of the products that you offer?
Life insurance, whole and term, individual and group. So individual and group for pretty much everything. I have disability insurance. I have chronic illness insurance. I have cancer insurance. I have accidental life and accidental death and dismemberment. I have long-term care. And a lot of those sound similar, but they are different. I have mortgage protection. I have travel insurance. I have annuities, retirements, college savings, you name it. I got a bunch of stuff. Plus also that I have LegalShield, which it's not insurance, but if you don't understand how it is, it's like an HMO for insurance, for legal aid advice. And then I have idshield. So I have a bunch of different products in one that I can market to groups or individuals, and it does play a big part in their life.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, we know that during elections, everyone's got spammed with, I say spammed. Everyone was solicited with multiple text messages regarding, everything. And so in that, there's sometimes when I would see some of these things, I have my own thing. I just don't respond to any text messages I don't know. But there's so many ways in which people do the phishing aspect of it, not FISHING, but the PHISING, the phishing aspect of that. So what are ways in which you found that some of the tricks that some of these people, the scammers, are trying to use in order to get people's identity?
Well, I can tell you this. If you start to get really weird text messages or emails and you don't understand why, generally you've probably already had your identity stolen.
Mm,
The other thing is that there are a lot of scammers, especially around this time now. I mean, we just got out of Christmas, so what people were
mm,
doing were they were calling and saying, "Oh, I'm your credit card,
mm, mm.
and there's a problem with your credit card. So can you please validate your full ID number, date, everything
Yeah.
else on the back of it, and then give you all your information." But also with tax time, people are going to be
Mm,
asking and calling you saying that I am the IRS, and or they'll text you and they say that you are back on your taxes, so you need to pay us with like you have to pay us to so we can get you out of the magistrate, which should be an
mm.
instantaneous.
Yeah.
This isn't somebody from here.
Mhm.
But then they say that they'll send us like a gift card for like $3,000 and stuff like that from Amazon or something like that. There isn't anybody in the government that will do that. And one of the things
Yes.
that you should know, that if there's anything that comes from the government, I don't care what agency it is, it's always done through the regular mail. It's
Yes,
never
it
done
is.
through text. It's never done through phone.
Mhm,
Now
mhm.
you can call them, and and if you are on the phone or you get something and somebody calls you and you answer it, if you don't feel right, just hang up and say, I'm going to call my company, and hang up and call back.
Mhm.
And if they call up and they say there's nothing wrong, you just saved yourself from potentially becoming spammed.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Not only that, but I found that I once had this random person call me and said, um, well, first I got a text message, multiple text messages and phone calls that said someone had broken into my Amazon counter. They'd hacked it, and that there was some purchase for like $3,000, and it was and if I didn't call right away, they were going to have to release the funds. So I called them. At first, I was parking my car. I'm like, what is going on? So I called them, and then I realized, this is what they're doing. So they're like, can we have your information? And I said, well, what information do you have? And I'll confirm that or deny it. And they kept trying to do these different things. And I said, you know what? If you're gonna if the Amazon sale is going to go through, then I will dispute it at that time. And then they hung up on me. But but I think one thing many people struggle with, and myself included, is when there's so much pressure. Let's say someone calls you, and there's so much pressure. Say, if you don't do this right now, there's going to be a lock, lock on whatever, or there's going to be a fine or whatever it might be. But that fear, that moment of like, oh my God, I've done nothing wrong, because many people, when they see it doesn't matter how much above the law you are or not, but when a police ever pulls you over, of course you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? You have that fear, that nervousness, because they're the ones that are quote in control. And so that's the same type of thing when you have someone who thinks has authority over you, and they call you, automatically think, I'm in trouble. What have I done? I want to get myself out of this. And so we often don't have that ability to stop and think, to say, what information I'm actually giving them, or what is really happening. So one thing I would really suggest, to piggyback off what you said, is to make sure that if you feel compelled to say something right away, take that stop and think of that moment, just to be able to ask yourself, wait a minute, why am I feeling so triggered right now? Why am I so afraid right now? What do I do? And from that is a really good a really good clue that something is off.
Yeah, and honestly, that's what these people do. They use like pressure techniques and scare techniques to make you call, because nobody wants to have that $3,000 go
Yes,
through into their
yes.
account. Nobody does. I mean, but at the same time, you got to understand a couple of different things. And I get this all the time. I see it from family and everything else. They'll get something from iCloud saying that their
Mm-hmm.
iCloud has been compromised, and therefore they need to call up and give them their information and fix it. They don't have Apple phones or anything with
Oh,
Apple,
interesting.
so they
Yeah,
wouldn't have that iCloud. You know,
yeah.
even emails. If you get an email and it looks really legit, I mean, I got one from PayPal, and I have a PayPal account,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks so legit. But then I went up and I just clicked
Good.
all the information of where it was sent from, and
Uh-huh.
all the information, like the date, the time, and everything else, and it went to some random really email, and I was like, oh, so if I would have clicked on that link, it would have
Yeah.
taken me to something that looks like PayPal, but it's not. And if
Yes.
you accidentally click on one of those links, look up at the little URL bar on your computer there and see, does it say Amazon.com? Does it say iCloud.com?
Mm-hmm.
Does it say this? And if it does not say that, because they really don't have that domain, it's going to a phishing scam.
Yes.
So
Yes.
don't put in any information until you look into that specific URL. So
Yeah.
important.
Yes, I really appreciate you saying that. One thing people may not realize is that what Emma's talking about is what's called a display name, and then the actual email. So when it comes up, let's say if Emma, you sent me an email, because I have it the way you have it in your email set up is the display name would be what you want people to see, and then usually the email is hidden because the display name is there. So for me, if I were to email you, say James Miller, but if you clicked on the James Miller part, then all of a sudden you would see that email aspect of what you're talking about. So that's what Emma's really saying. Click on whatever says Apple Services or iCloud or whatever it is, and really look to see what it is, because at the @ domain, domain means like at James Miller LiFEOLOgy or at AMFM247 at apple.com. Those types of, that's what our domain name is. So when you click on that, you'll realize if it's not PayPal, if it's not whatever the company they say they are, it's a complete phishing scam. And so in that, they're just really trying to get your information. So I really appreciate you saying that. I would have my mom send me things, James, what is this? And I'm like, Mom, don't worry about that. I appreciate you sending it to me, but that is a phishing scam. Have you found that there are certain populations or certain types of age groups that are often targeted for these types of scams?
Seniors and younger kids, because younger kids, if it comes from the internet, it's got to be real, right. And so, they jump on all these things, and it's just because they're naive and they're young, and that's okay. We were all that way. There's nothing to be ashamed about. It's just, you got to get used to this new type of technology that you are on, but you got to understand that not everybody on the internet is your friend.
Yes.
The other thing is pretty much people 55 and older. Those are the ones where they hit the IRS scams. Those are the ones that they pretty much target for Medicare scams, all kinds of different scams, because they know that that's their lifeline. And if they fall for it, because they don't understand technology, they don't understand this stuff. And a lot of the times when we get older, we get a little bit slower just naturally. And so we can become confused. And so we take people for granted, because especially like my parents and my grandparents, they came from a generation that this wasn't prevalent with.
Yeah. And they didn't lie.
And I mean, I grew up with it, but it's not as bad as it is now. But I mean, it was getting more prevalent when I was younger. And so I'm more used to it than my parents and my grandparents are. They're more, they believe people. And the scams that they had back in those days were pretty much in-person scams. You really didn't have the ability to kind of do what we have today with the internet. I mean, everything's on the internet. You can literally lose everything. I mean, even our government has gotten hacked. So I mean, anytime that there's any information out there and is hacked, you're going to be a possible victim. And so that's where these people take that trust, or they hear that fear, like, okay, we're going to be bringing the cops out, and you're going to be going to see a magistrate if you don't pay your taxes that are back due from like $5,000 from 2 years ago. Who's going to go and find their stuff and go, oh my God, did I do this or not? They're not. And they're going to just get scared, because they know if anybody's dealt with the wrath of the government, you'll understand that is not something anybody wants to deal with. So exactly. They're going to get more antsy and unfortunately do these things. And that's what they prey on.
Yes. So let's transition into the different products that you have. So I heard you say you have the ID theft, or ID shield, and then legal shield. So tell me about the ID shield.
Okay, the ID shield is essentially like LifeLock. It's a little bit cheaper than LifeLock, but it works the same. So what I like about this particular product is you don't only have to do your credit cards and your bank account. You can also do your gaming accounts. You can do your emails. You can do everything, and it goes through there and looks for scams and everything else. It also gives you random updates of your credit scores and anything else that pops up in your credit history, because who the hell looks at that all the time? Nobody does. So this kind of gives you all of that, and as long as it's protected through there, they can help you reverse it pretty quickly. If you've ever been a victim of an identity theft, or let's just say, for instance, you got like a $500 charge on your debit card, and it literally does come out of your account, you can challenge it, but not all the banks go ahead and reimburse you that money right away. Some of them you have to wait for 30 days. And so most people can't be out for 30 days out of that $500. So this program helps you recoup that a lot quicker, or solve the problem, or it's also kind of like they will help you reimburse the problem. So it's like an insurance program, but it's not insurance.
Okay. So when you said that it checks different things, so you said like my gaming account, for example, if I had that, when someone logs in, does it authenticate it somehow? How does that work?
I believe it authenticates it, but it also checks your purchases. And when you do have a gaming account, guess what you put in there? Your credit card.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So, and it keeps it on file. So that helps monitor and protect that from people being hacked. And if it does happen to get hacked, they'll let you know.
Okay, so anytime credit card, or for example, if I put my credit card information in there, anytime that's used, I'll automatically get a notification that this was just used. Okay, that makes sense. So it's always
Yeah.
monitoring. Okay, that
Yeah.
makes sense as well. When it comes to the credit part of it, so let's say that an account was opened under my name and I had no idea, and then all of a sudden it goes into, then this happens, and then all of a sudden I get the ID Shield later. Well, can they do retro aspects of things, or is it only things since I've become a member of them? Is that when they help me, or can they help me from things from the
They will
past as
help
well?
you. Now, obviously, if you didn't know the account to track, there's nothing that it will know
Gotcha.
about,
Okay.
but it
Yeah.
might let you know that, hey, look, an account was opened up at this bank,
Mm-hmm.
and you can get your credit report because all the banks on there. Now, because of that, if they find it and you find it, you can work with them to have their professionals help you fix this
Okay.
problem.
Okay.
But it will only protect the accounts that you put in there. So if you only
Gotcha.
put in 3 credit cards, but the fourth one that you have that you didn't put in there gets hacked, there's nothing they
Mm-hmm.
can do about that one.
Yeah.
But they
Yeah.
will help. They can help you fix it, but they won't protect it to the same level of protection.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Okay. Okay. Yeah. With some of your customers or people in the past, do you have any examples of how that's really helped people?
Well, it helped me.
Oh, okay.
Because I had quite a few thefts over the years.
Yeah, I
And
know.
so basically what ended up happening for me was I was in I believe Clearwater at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody knows Florida, it's in Pinellas County, kind of a little bit north for where the Rays play. And I got a couple of hits for $500 and $400 at a gas station. I mean, I don't know what you could buy for
Wow.
$400 to
Yeah.
$500 at a gas
Yeah.
station, but it was in uh, Modesto, California,
Okay.
and I'm
Oh,
like,
okay.
how could I have done that? And if I'm over here, so
Yeah.
I called them up, and they were able to help me fix it.
Hmm.
I mean, sometimes you can simply call your credit card too, and they'll help you.
Yeah.
But this is a little bit. It's a level of like an agency on your side, so they're going to be
Mm-hmm,
more
mm-hmm.
apt to work with an agency than your general
Yeah.
person.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fantastic. Yeah. I'm glad they were able to resolve that for you as well. With transitioning a little bit into the legal shield, can those work hand in hand as needed?
They do.
Oh,
Actually,
they
you can
do.
have two of them. You can have both of them at once. You can have one or the other as a standalone. You can do
Mm-hmm.
all different kinds of things with it. But what I like about Legal Shield is that essentially, and if you do have your identity stolen, you can sue. So
Oh,
that's
yeah.
where
That's right.
that's where this is now. Basically, you pay a 1 month fee at a time. So it's like a
Mm-hmm.
small monthly fee. And what you get is you get access to all their lawyers. They have one in every
Mm-hmm.
possible category you can imagine, from real
Mm-hmm.
estate to family practice to criminal and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can use a button to create a response with, like, let's just say you got a credit card stolen and
Mm-hmm.
there's $4,000 worth of stuff that they stole on it, and the credit card's not working with you. You can then go through the lawyer to try to find and make an inquiry about it, tell them exactly what happened, and they'll get back to you and tell you what you can do. And a lot of times they can solve the practice pretty quickly without even having to go to any type of court. They can write a letter. If you have a contract, you decide to go to work for somebody, they
Yeah.
make you sign a contract. You can take the contract and send it to them, and for the first 15 pages, they'll review it for free, part of
Oh.
your contract. And essentially, if they'll tell you what you need to look for, or hey, this isn't probably in your best interest, so maybe see if you can negotiate that and stuff. So they have different things like that. If you get a DUI, you can
Mm-hmm.
you can call somebody 24/7 for criminal as well. And so there's lots of things that you can do. You can also create for an extra $50 a will or
Oh, nice. Yeah.
$250 a trust.
Oh, wow.
So
Wow.
that's a big savings. I know I
Huge
looked into my
savings.
trust about 4 years ago. It was going to be almost $3,000.
Mm.
And so that's expensive. Now, there is a difference between a trust and a will. People have to
Yes.
understand that.
Yes.
A will is simply something that tells you when you pass away that these are your last wishes. You want to be buried like this. You want to have your kids go do this. You want this money to go to there, this house to go to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas a trust, it puts it into a trust fund. Somebody is the executor of that trust, and literally you cannot put that into probate. So
Mm.
at that
Oh,
point
interesting.
in
Yeah.
time, if it goes into probate, anything that's in there is protected by the trust.
Hmm.
So it's a
Wow.
lot different than, say, a will. That, if there is, I don't know, let's just say there's like a substantial amount of debt in a will, they
Mm-hmm.
can contest the will to try to get some
Yes.
of that paid
Yeah.
off. whereas a trust, they really can't.
Mm.
It's locked in. Only the trustee can do something about it. They can sue the trust, but it's going to be a lot harder to get it than a will.
Sure.
And in a trust, if you have all your stuff in a trust, let's just say there is a contested will, or somebody's trying to like screw somebody else over, the executor can step in and say, no, this is the money that's going to you. This is money that's going to them. So it's a lot different than a will, but they're both, unfortunately, they are both necessary in many cases, especially if you need a trust if you have a business, and if you have a lot of money, you have a lot of investments, and you can put your house and car into it too.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it's interesting. Okay. I didn't realize that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's wonderful. When it comes to the Legal Shield, you said it was kind of like an HMO in some ways. So if I were to have Legal Shield myself, and then so I would speak to all the lawyers, the appropriate lawyers, and then from there, would I then after that initial interaction with them, would that then I would get a discount if I worked with them moving forward? Okay.
25%.
Oh,
so
nice.
25%. Okay. That's only if it doesn't cover under the plan, or they need to refer you to another lawyer that's not in the plan. But see, the reason I say it's like an HMO is because if you have an HMO, you have to go to your primary care physician, and they have to go ahead and deal you out to other people, others,
providers.
What do you call them?
Providers, specialists.
Providers and specialists. That's what I was going to say. Specialists, and you cannot go to any other doctor because they will not pay it. Well, essentially, that's what you do here. You go and use their lawyers. It doesn't matter what level of lawyer they have, but if they can't fix it, they send you out and you get 25% discount. And generally, a lot of it's paid for the price, so that whatever you pay that month, that's what you're going to pay to use their services. Okay. So it's not going to be above and beyond, except for the trust and the will.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Wow. That's a really good deal. That's really good. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, our time is up. I know you'll be back on my show again soon. If my viewers and listeners want to find out more information about you and to work with you and to learn all the different businesses you have, all the different products, specifically about the Legal Shield and the anti-identity theft, where would they find all this information online?
It's all on my website. It's emmalynndowd.com. And when you go there, it has all the insurance. I try to give you a good briefing about what it is and how it works. Legal Shield, it doesn't matter where you are in the country, I can sell that because it's not insurance.
Perfect. Good. Travel
insurance, I can sell it to 48 out of the 50 states. I cannot sell it to New York or Hawaii. Okay. And everything else, you have to be in Florida, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean that I can't help you in some way, shape, or form and get you some type of advice or anything like that if you need it.
A referral. Sure.
So you can go there and definitely check that out. And the Legal Shield and the travel insurance, you don't need you don't even need to talk to me. I have a form right there. You can sign up and do it. It's the same price as if you were going to go directly to them. So it's no upcharge. And if you want to sell Legal Shield as well, you can. You don't need a license for it. I can help you sign up for that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Once again, I know you've done so many things as a serial entrepreneur. You're so successful in everything you do. So, Emma, thank you once again. I do appreciate it. Listen, my viewers and listeners know that if you can't find this information any other place, simply go to the show notes at jamesmiller@LiFEOLOGY.com, and I'll connect you with Emma Lynn Dowd. Emma, thanks again. I really appreciate your time today.
Thanks for having me.